Good day. Folks, last time we ended by creating our player object and adding some animations to it. So the last time we worked together, we created the player prefab. Well, hey, what's a game with just a player? Not a very fun one. So in this one, we're going to be creating the enemy 1 object and enemy 2 objects and adding animations to them. So the first part is going to be pretty much a review of what we did with the player object. So let's go ahead and just create a new empty object. Let's call this enemy 1. Okay. From here, what we're going to do is we'll go again to our sprites, and it's going to be the shirtless enemy. Okay, so we're going to click, do a click and then a shift click. Let's go ahead here and add it to the enemy 1 object. Same deal as before. We're going to go here to game animations, and let's just call this enemy 1 idle. Okay, and if we go to our game animations folder, we see now we have a controller, which I'm going to put in the controllers folder, and then the animations folder, which is going to be in the animations folder. So let's go ahead and add one more set of animations. So this is going to be enemy 1 hit. Okay, let's go ahead here and add that. We'll call this enemy 1 hit. We'll go ahead here and add it to animations. We can put that in the animations folder. Cool. So now if we look at the, let's go ahead and add some of the enemy 1 components before we preview the animation. Okay, so if we go to add component, we want to add a box collider, and the same deal as far as the size. Make sure the size is set to 1. I have some weird defaults when I do some of these projects, and you'll see the other one like where I have some issues with that. But yeah, the size should be set to that. As far as the enemy stuff. Let's also add the rigid body 2D, and then the body type is going to be kinematic. Okay. So while we're here, let's also add the information for the with the like the tags. So let's set here the tag is going to be enemy. The layer is going to be blocking layer, and then the sorting layer for this is going to be set to units. Okay. Now I have a weird thing. So like, I actually, this is the second time I've done this video. When I try to preview the animation that we created, I was like, hey, it's not running. For some odd reason, my default for the layer, as far as the position of this thing, was set to the z-axis was set to -10. So if you set that to 0, then that's what it should be by default. It should be 0, 0, 0. Same thing as far as the box collider. I'm getting weird errors where, not errors, but issues where the default numbers are like ridiculous. But anyways, so let's preview what this enemy looks like. And you can see here we've got the enemy cycling through. And you can actually see too like which sprite is currently like going. Okay, cool. So let's make sure we've got all of our tags. We got our kinematic rigid body. Okay, good. So at this point, what we're going to do is enemy 1 is done. So we're going to go ahead and drag him to prefabs. So what we're going to do though is we're going to basically say like the 90% of what we did for enemy 1 is going to be appropriate for enemy 2. We just have to do some things to differentiate them. So anyways, let's go ahead here to enemy 1. In our hierarchy, we've got enemy 1 on our prefab, which we'll come back to. But let's go here, enemy 2. Okay, so now enemy 2 is going to have all of this stuff associated with it, but it needs to have different animations. It's going to basically behave in a similar fashion. So let's go here to sprites, and then we're going to go with the coat guy. So let's go ahead here, do a shift, coat guy, shift click, drag. And we're going to go here to game animations, and we'll call this enemy 2 idle. Okay, same thing, we'll go here to enemy 2 hit. let's drag that over. Enemy to hit. Go to game animations, and then we'll get to clean up this folder then. So let's go to game animations, make sure that we've got these two items in the animations folder. So now, what are we going to do as far as our enemy 2? Like, because if we play enemy 2, even though we added those two new animations, we're still going to get enemy 1's animations to come up. How do we change that? Okay, so we're going to go into the controllers folder, and we're going to go ahead and create new. And this is going to be sort of a new thing. It's called Animation Override Controller. So if we look at, let's go ahead to enemy 1's controller. We see here that like we added the, and let me see, I can kind of move around here a second. You can kind of see that we've got a situation where you've got all of these animations that we had added to, when we added the enemy 2 object. We've got enemy 2 idle, enemy 2 hit, we've got enemy 1, all this kind of stuff. Well, we need to go ahead and add a, we're going to be adding what's called an animation override controller, which we created down there. That's going to basically use the same state machine. Or like it's going to allow us to, when we run a script, we're going to be able to sort of hook into enemy 1 and enemy 2 in the same way, but have them just display different animations when our scripts run. So we're actually going to go ahead, we're going to click and drag it. We're going to delete enemy 2 idle and enemy 2 hit as these potential states here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete those. We're now going to go ahead here. Here's that animation override controller that we had created a little bit ago. We're going to call this enemy 2. Okay, so animation override controller. An override means is that you're taking something that's already existing and you're overriding it or you're changing it. So here where it says controller, like what are we overriding? We're going to be overriding enemy 1's controller. So if we click and drag there, we now see that originally enemy 1 hit is going to display the enemy 1 hit animation. Enemy 1 idle will initially is going to display the enemy 1 idle animation. Well, since we're working with enemy 2, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead to our animations folder, and we're going to go ahead to where it says enemy 2 idle. See, now this is one thing that's a little frustrating. Let's go back to the enemy 2 controller. We could just search it out. I find it easier to click and drag. So we go ahead to enemy 2 hit, and we're going to replace the animation with enemy 2 hit. And now when we go to enemy 2 idle, we want that to play. So now when we play enemy 2's animation, we're going to get his, I see. This is actually interesting. So this is one thing is we did set up the controller, but right now our object, let's go here to enemy 2. Our object is still saying, where are you? The controller it's pointing at is still enemy 1's controller. So this is sort of a common mistake is that we created all this stuff, but then we didn't have our object pointing at the right place as far as the controller. So we're going to go back to our controllers folder, and we're going to go ahead to enemy 2. And we're going to have enemy 2 control this game object. Now we go ahead and play. And there we go. We've got the proper animation going with enemy 2. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and take enemy 2, bring him down to the prefabs folder. We want to go ahead and do the, I think I might have accidentally, not accidentally, but no, let's just go ahead. We should just drag this down. Let's do original prefab. Okay, and then we'll put that in our prefab folder. There we go. So we've got enemy 1, enemy 2, and player. So those should all be set up as far as what we need. That last sort of screen as far as the variant or whatever, I've not seen that before. So if you see it, do what I did. Otherwise, when I did this tutorial initially, I didn't get that screen. So anyways, at this point, we can delete enemy 2 from the hierarchy. And we can go ahead and let's just we can just save the scene. as just, we'll call this main. And we'll put this in the scenes folder. Okay? All right, folks, that's it. I wish you the best of luck. That was a tough one. We'll catch you later.